So, good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Um, Cameron, are you on audio? Can you use your audio? Oh, you don't have a mic. All right. So I'm going to share something. Cameron, let's use the chat window. That's fine. How many of you guys are registered for the elective? Do you know? I believe it's about 4 of you. We can use the chat window. That's good. There's someone else. Bradley is joining. Good evening, Bradley. Do you have audio?
How's it, doctor?
Good evening.
Good in yourself?
Good, good, good. I can hear you well.
Okay.
All right. I was asking Cameron now, how many of you guys are registered for the module? I think it's about 4 of you for the elective. We can use the chat window. What I want to ask you guys before we start, I am recording the session as well. So, yes, I will be with you guys for the next couple of weeks, 12 weeks or so plus. The PG DIP is an interesting qualification. I know you have your core modules plus your electives. The entrepreneurship is an elective, of course. And you guys also have REMI, I believe, which is your research module. I want to ask both of you something just to get the ball rolling. Bradley, I'm going to share now a couple of things which I want to ask you, and then you can actually open your audio and share with us. Let me see if I have access to that Word document. There it is. All right. I'm sharing this doc. Can you see it, guys?
Yeah.
So the document says, tell me quickly your full name. Uh, are you working? If yes, where are you working? Or are you studying full time? Where did you do your undergrad? Where did you do it? What did you do? What's your home language? Are you looking at further study after you've finished your postgrad, your PG dip? And tell me a bit about yourself in terms of what is your passion, your career dream? What is in your head in terms of what you want to do with your life looking forward? What's in your mind going forward? Bradley, can we start
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, so yeah, firstly, name is obviously on the screen, Bradley Colin Roy. I currently do work. I work full time as a sales manager
Okay.
in Edenvale.
All right.
So I oversee the team that sells labels and packaging.
All
We
right.
do material sales, we do lamination, slitting, coating of different materials. So, like for example, what our company did recently, we the yogurt lidding on the Danone products for
Uh-huh.
Nutriday.
Yep.
So that was all overseas based. So there's a
Sure.
company called Universal Labels that used to print for that
Sure.
for Danone. We do the wax coating of it. And now
Really?
we've got a laminator that we just received from India that's worth like 13 million rand. And we had investors and whatnot. And now we can do all of that
Wow.
locally.
Is packaging big business? I presume
Huge.
so, right?
It's huge, eh? So the biggest thing about it is the everything's consumable. So
Mm-hmm.
it has to you have to order every month, order every week, order every two
Yes.
weeks, every 6 months, so that you're gonna get that order. So
That's
that's
so
why,
interesting. Hey?
yeah. So it's
How much are
very
you guys, just as a side note, while we're keeping this discussion alive, how much are you guys being affected by green practices and recycling of material and that sort of thing? Is it entering your space at all?
so it will at the moment. So how South Africa works is South Africa is always 5 years behind in packaging.
Yes.
That's kind of the benchmark that we use.
Yes,
So recyclable packaging, it's hellishly expensive
sure.
in South Africa. In Europe, it's probably the cheapest.
Yes,
But this side, it doesn't really affect us too much because a lot of the clients don't want to do that. We try
yes,
push it. If they can do it, it's a bonus because we actually get
yes.
points. So if we sell a client that is uh, recyclable based, we can earn points for, say, for example, a government tender. Then we more aimed to do a government tender. It's these weird little things that will just
Yeah,
assist
yeah.
us.
It
So
it might buy some goodwill with some consumers as well,
yes,
but not
yes.
necessarily.
Mhm.
I don't think people are into green practices that much with that they're willing to, to pay a premium on,
Exactly.
green stuff
Yeah.
for that matter. Competence, on price still
Yes.
remains more important, right?
Yeah. So there's a for example, there's a client that I'm working with now. You know, Mayford Seeds.
Yeah, yes, those very nice sealed packs with
Yes.
seed you always see in the
Yes.
hardwares.
Yes.
Yes.
So these guys, so there's another company that does the same thing called Kirchhoffs with a Ball
Mm-hmm.
Straathof. So the Ball Straathof, they use a formulation where it's paper. So we buy paper from Sappi. So we buy a paper that is fully recyclable.
Yes.
Then if your package is less than 5% LDPE, so less than 5% plastic, it can be it can be recycled. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what Kirchhoffs is going towards. But Mayford, how their structure is if the I think it's Knorr soup is
Yeah, yeah,
made
yeah.
in a stand-up pouch that has
Mm,
a foil inside, and foil is the worst thing for the environment. All of these
sure.
guys want foil this, foil that, and it's the worst thing for the environment.
And
And
obviously the foil is there to keep to guarantee freshness of the product, right?
yes, yes. So make sure that there's no oxygen that can leak in and go out, and there's always uh, uh, the moisture is always locked. So
Sure.
there will be no moisture in it because obviously a seed, if there's moisture, it's just not going to grow at the end of the day.
Yes.
So we tried to get them to the paper side of it, but they said that because the if Knorr goes to recyclable, then they'll go to recyclable. And foil is very expensive. We can do cheaper formulations, but they just don't want to change because they've worked on this formulation for 52 years. I doubt it
Mm,
was 52 years because it's a very easy formulation and everyone can do it.
mm.
But yeah, they just very adamant on their foil. And I mean,
I
it's a
see.
seed packet, so you kind of think that those guys will be the biggest in the recyclable game because it's all about environments and whatnot.
Sure,
But
looking after the
they,
planet. Mm.
yeah, so
All
and
right,
they're
so
not
we
going to change.
we 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 sort of going in that direction, but lagging behind the rest of the modern world that you sort of about 5 years or so, right?
100%, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. All right.
Yeah.
That was what's the next thing on our list?
So the
You're
undergrad.
working. Yes. Where did you do undergrad?
So I did my undergrad at Pretoria, University of Pretoria. So I did information science.
Okay.
So like a lot of the data analysis.
Yes.
I was very keen in on business analysis.
Yes.
But then, yeah, I opened up my own thrift store back in the day. So I
Ooh.
was really keen on the selling part of it. So then
There's
I
there's a
just
there's a there's a bit of a entrepreneurial in your DNA,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That's hence why I chose the course. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to make use of it. Yeah, so I just did my undergrad for 3 years, got the degree, and then I worked for 1 year at this QT labels and packaging that I'm working at now. And
Mm-hmm.
then now I've started studying this diploma, and then yeah, so we'll see where it takes us then.
Yeah, sure.
Mm. And then yeah, my home language is definitely English. I'm a real SOT.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is Afrikaans. He doesn't like that I speak English, but I will I will speak English because it's the easiest for me. Uh, my further study, I do want to. So I opted in for the 1 year for this course,
Hmm.
and then I was hoping to obviously I have to stay in a managerial position for a certain amount of time, and then I really want to do my MBA.
Okay,
Uh,
MBA next. All right, so
yeah,
this NQF level qualification does open the door for you toward MBA, I believe.
yes, yes, it does. Yeah, that
So
was the biggest research that I did on this module or on
yes,
this
it's all about
course.
NQFs. So you're on the same
Yes,
level, NQF level as an honors.
yes,
Awesome.
yes,
NQF 8, I think.
yes. It is
All
NQF.
right.
Yeah.
How much is an MBA cost nowadays, Brad? 150K.
So if I had to be honest, I think the cheapest I found was UNISA. I don't really want to go with UNISA. I've heard problems, but the
Yeah.
cheapest one I saw was about 220K.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Listen,
So
what was the vibe like at the UP
oh, it
for
was
you?
awesome, man.
Is it? You like UP?
Yeah, yeah. I had no problems with them. Obviously, there
Mm.
was issues with So I was a 2020 matriculant, so obviously
Yes,
COVID hits at the best time for me.
sure.
So then I think University of Pretoria was still getting used to the online stuff. So a lot of the um, lectures in first year were quite tough for the sole reason that people didn't really understand the online learning at that time.
They were basically forced from contact
Yes,
to online
yes,
overnight, right?
yes, exactly that.
Mm.
So that was the one thing that I struggled with, that side. But other than that, I mean, I had no problems there. Absolutely no issues.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Right, passion, career dream.
Yeah, so my initial dream was to become a financial advisor, but it does change a little bit because I would like to become someone in the C-suite. So it's financial advising or
Okay.
like managing positions, something like that.
The guys run that
Yeah.
CFA call and that sort of thing, right?
Mm,
And
mm.
corporate mainly or more of your own, running your own shop?
Most likely my own, eh? Most likely. Mm,
Fantastic.
mm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Bradley. So
It's
I've asked Cameron to type some of his things there that we can look at now. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Bradley. All right, guys. So this is an interesting course. I think it fills a very nice gap. I like the idea that it gives you guys a platform also to look at further studies and to
mm,
further your studies. It is a bit of a tall order, especially if you are working.
mm.
How many core modules do you guys have, Brad? And then your electives. What's the total amount of modules that you have to complete this year?
So it's 6.
Okay,
So I
so
think it's
that includes Remy, the research module.
yeah. So there's 4 core modules and then 2 electives.
Okay, so well, hats off to you guys for taking on that. It is ambitious, it is courageous. So from our side, from the lecturer side, we will support you relentlessly. We know it's going to be a busy year, but let me really say right at the outset, you're going to enjoy it a lot. Um, in the postgrad space, and I think that's one of the biggest things I want to leave with you this evening. So we're going to connect once a week in this time slot. I don't know if you've had access to the module material. I see assignment one's been published. I see the module outline is there. I think there's 2 assignments, an individual, a group, and then an exam. We've got ICE. If you haven't studied with the IIE brands, ICE is basically a 10% percentage of your final aggregate that we use all sorts of funny, interesting things to get you that 10%. My stance on ICE is I don't want to use it to penalize anyone. I actually want all my students to get the ICE 10% because it can take you. What if you sit on a 68 and it can take you to a 70, or you're sitting on a 73 and it can take you to distinction?
Mm.
So you're going to work for ICE, but ICE is still 10% of your total weight mark.
Yeah.
Then so we connecting once a week. A lot of this is going to be self-study. I'm going to ask you guys, so when we say post-grad, I'm going to really encourage you. And like I say, I'm your biggest supporter in wanting to see you succeed. Cameron, you can still tell me when you're ready and I'll start reading your stuff. The biggest mind shift in postgrad is that you're now sitting on the other side of the fence, you are generating knowledge. Undergrad, for the most part, we're testing your memory retention ability. What's the 7 steps of this? What's the 4 stages of that? Of course, there's a minimal amount of application, say 15 to 20%. But for the rest, you're trying to get knowledge into your head. In the postgrad space, you are generating, thank you, Cameron, I see your stuff, I'll read it up. You are generating knowledge, and that's the biggest mind shift. So when you publish, when you create new knowledge, you are an academic. The way I look at you guys is as scientists, researchers, academics. Now, even the other modules you are doing, the content is there, the content is important, but all of this is underpinned by the fact that you are becoming a researcher. So by the end of the year, you're going to see how massively you progressed on this growth curve in terms of research, hardcore scientific academic research. And that's what we want to see. And that is what you will essentially be evaluated on as well. If you look at your rubrics in your assignments, you won't see exact answers. In other words, we're opening the gate for you guys. I always say I allow my students to go out of the box. In fact, I encourage that. But then to say you can say whatever you want if you can motivate what you are saying. I always say motivate, integrate, and substantiate. What do I mean by that? You cannot say stuff that is your own opinion, not in an academic discourse environment. You have to motivate what you are saying. You have to substantiate it by scholarly sources. In other words, and you guys will know that in the day and age we live in, there's a lot of people with opinions, right? Opinionated people is something that we all live with. People giving advice free of charge about stuff that they don't always know so much about. So what I want to see is you people becoming allergic to assumptions and saying, let's do research. For me, a great compliment is when people tell me, you know, Ruan, when your students speak, when they open their mouths, it's worthwhile listening to what they have to say because they're talking sense. Guys, that's the goal. That's what a good scientist or a good researcher or a good academic will do. They will incorporate, they will do their homework, they will bring in all aspects in forming a topic and then put forward a valuable contribution. It's not plain, it's not in the normal everyday around the braai vleis fire type of discussion. It's an academic discussion. And of course, you have to master academic discourse, high-level academic language. So there's actually 2 legs that this whole thing sort of rests on, and you have to master them both. One would be academic research. In other words, you're going to have to find your way in the academic global database of the world to locate what you want to locate and need to locate, get to the correct information fairly quickly, be able to work through the information, how you can use the information, how you can integrate the information. And of course, you need to be able to then master the other skill or the other leg, which is academic writing, high-level academic writing. If you're a good researcher, but you can't write well, there's a problem. Vice versa is also true. You might be a brilliant writer, but if there's a lacking skill in terms of your research ability, you're also going to be in trouble. So those are the 2 skills I want to see you guys grow in. And you will, and we're going to spend a lot of time on both of those. You can really go, we're living in a complex world. Solutions are not easy. They are complex. They are layered. We never ever expect you to come up with the perfect solution. We expect you to put forward something which is of value, something which is credible, something which is academically credible, academically rigorous, scientifically credible, and something that is earthed in academic theory. In other words, there's a parallel here between uh, academia and business practice. We earth our contributions in the academic world in business practice. So it's pragmatic. It's not a weird and wonderful, highly philosophical domain that we work in. We work in a pragmatic arena where we say we want to put forward some contribution that could influence business practice. Being gravitating toward entrepreneurship also tells me you guys are pragmatic, you are hands-on, you are problem solvers like business people are. So this is not the esoteric academic bubble that some academics find themselves in. This is a real, how shall I say, practical, more down to earth approach toward business practice and toward we're giving you problems and we're asking you to put forward solutions, recommendations. With the important thing here is that whatever you give us, you must back that up by academic work and so on. You must support your work by academic references. I'm going to jump back to that now. I want to just see Cameron Peter Young, currently working in retail management. All right, so there's also some sales work here. Last 10 years, undergraduate with VC, Stratman. All right, interesting. I'm also supervising at VC Pretoria campus. I stay in Pretoria. So I'm working with the honors group there as well. You're also looking at a master's, fantastic. English home, passion in retail, new project developments, assisting with new fuel station development, career direction, corporate, and new developments, possibly project management. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I love that. Really, really nice. All right. So both you guys are having your sights set on MBAs, which is wonderful. That's good. And I think this is a nice ticket, and this is also a very nice opportunity for you guys to sink your teeth into research and research methodology and to learn some stuff on that. So the biggest thing here is making peace with the fact that you are now generating knowledge, getting into the mindset that there's a new freedom for you in the space in the postgrad space, as it were, which is wonderful. But that freedom also comes with a massive responsibility. I think I want to also maybe make mention, I don't know if you've had other lectures and other lecturers must have mentioned that to you. Please be very mindful to avoid the slippery slope of plagiarism, of AI. I'll say something about AI now. But you know, plagiarism offenses is something that can bring your academic career to a halt. We're going to be very strict in that sort of thing. We're not going to tolerate anything. You know, we've got the tools, we've got the similarity tools to check on that. So depending on the level of plagiarism offense, it can actually stop your academic progression indefinitely. What I'm saying is, if you commit a plagiarism offense at a certain level, and we excuse you from the program, you go to a UNISA or a Tikkies or another institution, and you say, look, I want to study here. Believe it or not, your plagiarism offense will stick to you like a criminal record. And this institution will most likely tell you, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to study here because there's a plagiarism offense linked to your profile. That's how serious it is, guys. Plagiarism is the one thing that you don't want to get into. It's so serious that yes. We did use SafeAssign last year, Cameron. I think this year we are going to turn it in. There was some talks about that we're changing to Turnitin. You say still using Turnitin. I wasn't aware that they did use it, but yes, as far as I know, Turnitin is our new similarity tool. All right, AI. So AI can literally do anything. AI can do your work as well. If I tell AI, write me a PhD dissertation or a thesis on the impact of extracurricular activities on academic performance in grade 8 learners in Pretoria, the AI tool will write me that PhD in 2 or 3 seconds. We know that, right? So AI is here. The IIE's got a stance on AI to say AI is there, it's here to stay. It's not gonna go away. So my short advice about AI is this. You can use AI. You will also see in the Harvard, the latest Harvard, please go to the library to look at your Harvard referencing guidelines adapted for the IIE. So it's one of the 50 or one of the 500 Harvard methods, right? Adapted for us. There's some guidelines on AI. You need to declare AI use. Guys, here's the acid test on AI. If you use AI to stimulate your thinking, to help you to unpack or unravel stuff, to order your thoughts, it's the same as stimulate your thinking, I guess, to help you get direction, that's one thing. Maybe to use AI as a language editor. But the minute you start using AI to generate content that you use, then you are in trouble. And that will again have grave consequences on your academic career. So, and I think it's not such a blurry line. I think we know when we sort of committing or bordering committing that sort of offense to say, listen, I have to go and sit on my backside. I'm going to work days and nights on this thing, this assignment, this research project. It's going to kill me. It's going to consume my life. It's going to cancel social obligations for the next couple of months because I'm going to sit there and do the work, which I should do and supposed to do and will be evaluated on. That's what you enrolled for. You did not enroll to do something where AI generates the content that you will be evaluated on. So I would lean toward running away from AI because it is a slippery slope and it can land you into deep water. Use it within boundaries, declare it based on the guidelines, and don't let AI put your head on a chopping block that's gonna affect the outcomes of your success. That's important, and the AI discussion will carry on for the rest of the year, I guess, and policies will be refined and written. AI caught educational institutions on the back foot a bit, I think. And everyone is seeing where things are going and what is allowed and what is not allowed. But long story short, don't let AI bite you in the back. I think that's sufficient to say that at this point. Sorry, I just want to close some apps here. All right. So then the whole idea of where you sit with this, remember, The expectation will be high. We are applying for university status within the IIE, which is of course good. It's good for everyone. So research output will be under the magnifying glass. So keep in mind that you guys are contributing in going and aiming for that goal, being a university, a full-fledged university, private university. So ask yourself the question, can my academic research output stand up to scrutiny of academic peers for the whole wide world to see, if I can say it like that? Your research output will be under the magnifying glass uh, in our application. And I'm talking about companies, regulating bodies like the CHE and that sort of thing. So the discussion we had now about MBAs, you apply for an MBA at an institution, TUCS or UNISA or wherever, maybe one of the privates. So the CHE, the Council for Higher Education, will look at what is the quality of student that we produce in the IIE group. In other words, there's students with an NQF level qual, like an NQF 8, that will open the door for masters. What's the quality of student that is produced at this institution? And that's, of course, the thing. Eh? Can you walk into this MBA? Because on every lower level of NQF, we are preparing you to some degree for the higher. An honors, a PGD prepares you for masters. A master's prepares you for a doctorate and so on. Right, so we understand that. And that's where this comes in to say, it's being regulated, it's being monitored, it's being looked at very carefully to see, can we produce students that can master the academic NQF level to allow them to move up and progress to a next level, and that's important. With what you have on your plate now for this year, you're going to have a busy year, but an interesting year. I must tell you, next year, if you don't study, you are going to miss the academic stimulation. It is nice to come into that place where you learn to look at things and to assess things more scientifically. So a huge part of postgraduate academic study is also in your self-growth and your self-development, and how you, like I say, hopefully become allergic to assumptions and become someone that does good research on any topic before you make decisions, before you speak. I think we don't need more people in this country that put forward uneducated opinions. I think we need educated people to make educated contributions. And then we also need entrepreneurs. So, and of course, you guys say, listen, corporate, perhaps my own thing. Remember, nothing stops you from pursuing a corporate career and on the side do something that you can put in your own basket. So that's always something to consider. If that's something you fancy, nothing stops you from running something on the side. It's actually quite exciting to do that, and you do your corporate and you sort of do the things together. So it is tough. It is going to be a bit of a grueling journey. I must tell you, if I look at my students, my honor students, and so somewhere in a year, I tell them, listen, guys, why are you why is your eyes not puffy and black rings around your eyes? You don't look like people studying postgrad. If this study doesn't consume you and almost kill you, you're doing something wrong. Really, it's really tough. It's really tough, and the expectation is going to be really high. But let me say something which balances this whole thing, because you might you might say, listen, with workload and with everything else, it is something that I didn't quite realize what I was signing up for. Here's the thing. Many people, many individuals have done it before you. Many have done it after you. If you were allowed to enroll on this course, in other words, you met the admission criteria. People looked at your history, your academic record. People said you are allowed on the course. That means, from my perspective, that you have a go at this. You have what it takes to make a success of this. So, and like I say, many have done it before you, and so many will do it after you. If you don't do it, if you don't succeed, you are going to kick yourself. If you leave the program, if you give up, if you say it's too much, you're going to kick yourself and say, oh my goodness, why did I do that? So guys, a big part of my job also, I'm not going to teach you stuff. I'm not going to give you slides. I'm not going to sum up your book for you. I'm going to treat you like real big people, like big boys. I'm going to treat you like fellow academics, postgrad space. And you are going to take responsibility and you are in control of this. I'm not going to teach you content. I'm going to stimulate. I'm going to throw in some stuff that we handle in class. I'm going to flip the class. I'm going to let you do the work. I'm going to let you come and engage and bring your views, bring your opinions, work with stuff. A big part of my role would be to support you, because when you're studying in a non-contact environment, a non-face-to-face environment, you can easily feel that you are not being looked after, if you hear what I'm saying. So it's important for me when I work with students in the online space, and I have both online and contact students, that those students, especially my online students, feel that there's someone looking out for them. There's someone supporting them, someone catching them. So you will also see that I will be encouraging a lot and talking to you guys about that. You will find, especially with research, I want to tell you that the research module, that it can be a somewhat of an emotional roller coasting ride in some respects, where you might feel on a certain day that you are on top of things, you know exactly where you are and what you want to do and how you want to do it, and the next day you can feel completely lost, like, heck, where am I doing? What am I doing? What am I going? Now, that is completely par for the course. That is how it goes. I've never seen a research project, or seldom seen a research project come to fruition without blood, sweat, tears, and all the rest. So that's normal. I don't want you guys to make an emotional thing about it. I always want to say, you know, when they take a little Staffy dog, a Staffordshire, and they put the Staffy in front of a mini bus or something, and the dog pulls that thing because they can. I almost want you guys to come with that sort of tenacity and say, I'm gonna put one foot in front of the other, and I'm just gonna finish this. I'm not gonna let my emotions and stuff work against me. Um, I wanna give you the recipe to say, if you remain faithful to the process, then things will work out. Even though in the process and in the journey, you're going to be on top some days and you're going to be at the bottom on some days. Does that make sense? You hear what I'm saying? It's completely normal. That's how research works. Any questions you want to ask me at this point? I've been talking a lot. I'm getting tired of my own voice. Cameron is typing. Cameron, by the way, is that the name we will address you with? And Bradley, we address you as Bradley. I see you guys are typing. Let's see what you say. So all of this, I just want to gooi it out there to say it is sobering. It is food for thought. If you decide to give this your best effort. There's no reason why you cannot succeed. If you decide to sideline this, then you're going to be in trouble. Then it's going to come back and bite you. So don't do that. For the next 12 months, less than 12 months, it's going to be a big part of your life. So it's going to probably take you a bit of time to find your rhythm and so on. But once you are there, you will absolutely, I think, enjoy it. It's a good question. They've asked us not to start with ICE just yet because registrations are not final. So we'll probably gooi the first ICE around somewhere in March. My ARC is not working at the moment. There was a bit of a problem with the ARC facility. I will also communicate with you guys, and then I will also consider setting up a WhatsApp group. I don't normally give my phone number to students, or I might give my number to a class rep. I'll still decide on that. But the ARC facility does make allowance for communication, and logistics and so on. So obviously there's that. We're going to look at the PAS, the what do they call it? Program assessment schedule, I think, which is your deadlines for submission. The question here, Cameron, is a good one again. Assignment assistance, yes. So we will definitely look at assignments. We will definitely make sure that everyone understands what the assignment is about, what's the outcomes, are there anything that's not clear or ambiguous in the assignment. So yes, I'll definitely go through those before you guys do that. There's also, it's jumping the gun slightly, but there's a group assignment. I think assignment 1 is individual. Assignment 2 might be group. So we'll probably put all of you, if it remains at a fairly low total, we'll probably put all of you in one assignment or syndicate group. If there's more people coming on in the next week or so, we might have more than one syndicate group. In those cases, you will have to work together on a group assignment, and there is a presentation component where every member of the group has to participate in the actual presentation. So you will submit an assignment soft copy, and then there's a presentation component. Now, normally, in terms of the weighting, the presentation component will carry 25% or so of your full assignment mark. So that makes it interesting as well, the fact that there's going to be some group work that you guys need to attend, but that's coming on a bit later in the semester. So there's ICE. We will do it online. So I mean, logistically and geographically, it's difficult to get you guys face to face in one place. So yes, we will use our platform. This is normal Teams because ARC is not working yet on my side. But there's a Teams facility in ARC, which is our new student interface. And we will use that to facilitate these group presentations. So you guys will collaborate on that. And in the back end, of course, you will generate PowerPoint presentations and all of that. And do the typical presentation thing. So I believe it works nice. I think we're not going to have, well, touch wood. Hopefully, we're not going to have too much problems with that. So you guys are in online space, and that's what you do. There's, as far as I know, there's no need for you to come to campus. I'm not sure about your exams. I'm just throwing a stone in the bush here. Is your exams on campus? Is that written on campus? Do you know, or are you not sure? You both are typing. Let's see what you say. All right, you're not sure. All right, we'll see. Time will tell. So there's only two options. If it is not an online exam, then probably you will get some sort of a take-home exam that you complete in the online space as well. All right, but we will get that detail as we go along. So we'll be looking at the submission, the milestone submission deadlines. We'll make sure to cover each of those and prepare you a bit like Cameron mentioned here before you do that. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a lot of tips, guys, on academic writing. I'm going to show you and I'm going to teach you what I want to see and how I want you to approach academic research. And you will also see that in your own journey you will grow, and you will probably notice that toward the end of the year you become more proficient in your academic work, that is research and writing. So it is a growth curve. It's actually quite a steep growth curve. But I'll show you what I want. So plagiarism, we spoke about that. AI, we spoke about referencing. When I look at an assignment, and I know a lot of my peers do the same, I look at your paper. Do you give me a nice cover page? It's nice, it's neat. Do you give me a table of contents that contains everything in there? It makes sense, it's neat, it's readable. I turn to the table of contents, cover page, table of contents first, and then I go to the back to see what your reference list looks like. If I see you've given me a sloppy table of contents, if I see you've given me a sloppy reference list, then I got a bit of a question mark over the rest of your work, because if I see sloppiness there, it does not predict anything good about the rest of your work. If I go to your TOC and I go to your reference list and I see meticulousness page through your reference list, I don't see mistakes, I don't see deviations from our IIE reference guide 2025. Guys, that's your referencing Bible, quote unquote. The IIE Harvard Referencing Guide 2025, available in the library. That's the only thing you can use, nothing else. You can only use our institutional directives for referencing. If your work goes out to an external, the external receives a copy of our institutional referencing guide, and that's what they will also use. So now you're asking me, but what if I use some sort of a referencing generator app, and it goes out my references in a different format? Well, guys, if that's the case, then you have to manually change and modify and augment those references one by one to make sure it does conform with our institutional stuff. Very, very important. You're not going to send me assignments for review. We don't do that. You present your assignment and we mark it. With Remy, that's a different story. There you've got milestone submissions. It's reviewed. You're given feedback by your supervisor, and you're working toward your final product, With normal assignments, I'm gonna tell you what the expectation is, but I'm not gonna review drafts. Again, it's a good question. I don't do that. You're on your own. I will give you feedback on your assignment, and I'll tell you, this is the story. It's not always so easy. And I'll spend more time on this next week. Sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I think I deserve a distinction." So really, why do you say that? Well, I think my work is good. Okay, did you read the other submissions? Did you read all of them? No. Guys, talking about distinctions, I don't know how important distinctions are for you, but I'm not someone who throws out distinctions left, right, and center, even if I like you. I normally like my students, I'm fond of them. But I'm not gonna goy you with a distinction just because I like you. If you want to earn a distinction with me, you're gonna distinct yourself, right? That's what a distinction is. Doing excellent work is the expectation. Distinction level is above that. So you can get a distinction with me, of course you can, and students have done it, but it's not easy to get a distinction from me. I'm going to hold you at a very high standard of academic quality to give you a distinction. So I'm going to be very strict. My expectation of you is high. And I want to see you grow, and I want to see you develop into the maximum potential that you can develop in this year. I want you to grow. I want you to discover the abilities and potential that is inside of you. All right. So yes, we give guidance. We don't look at drafts and that sort of thing. Not in these modules. Then I want you guys to keep your eyes and ears open. I want you to read the Business Day, to read the Economist, the Financial Mail, all those. I don't know if the Business Day paper is still coming out. I know they stopped with some of the, because I want you guys to bring stuff into the classroom. Class engagement is important. So here's the thing also, class attendance. It's important for two reasons. There's a big well-known accepted as truth notion that class attendance is linked to academic performance. We know that. We don't have to doubt that at all. Class attendance will put you in a better position to achieve higher academic performance. So that's important. Secondly, your engagement in class and your contribution is important. So if you're not in class, you are missing out, right? That's the first thing on the one side of the coin. If you're not in class, you are robbing your peers and your classmates from your contribution, because your contribution, your engagement contributes to the texture or the richness of the class experience. So yes, you need to attend because you're getting something out of it, and two, you're also bringing something to class. Guys, I like it when students attend, and we keep a bit of a attendance track, because you're gonna put some goodwill in the bank with me. You're sitting on a 68, and I say, listen, can I get you to a 70? Let's look at your class attendance. Let's look at your preparation. Let's look at your engagement. Yes, I'm happy. I'm happy to take you over that threshold to a higher mark. Or I say, you're sitting on that 68. Can I take you to a 70? Oh, no. This student has never or hardly ever been in class. The student never engaged. The student never came prepared. You hear what I'm saying, folks? So put some goodwill. Do you want some goodwill in the bank with me? Yes, absolutely you do. I just want to quickly handle something here. All right. Then, guys, I really enjoy this. So, a bit about myself. I'm in my 50s. So I'm an academic. I only work with postgrads, people in honors, mainly honors based, masters, doctorate as well. I've done PG dip. I've done the entrepreneurship model a couple of times. So I enjoy the qualification. I'm actually a research specialist. I enjoy research. So I'm really passionate about research. Um, I'm also a life coach, business consultant. We've got a wellness center. My wife is a medical practitioner, general practitioner. So we've got a wellness practice here in Pretoria. I'm the practice manager there. Uh, so I do business stuff. I've got my own business stuffies, business interests, and then academia. And I find it very, very nice and complementing. Business and academia, the two complement each other. So from the business world, we can bring interesting things into the classroom. Uh, and academic focus or academic research uh, supports business practice in that way. So there's a healthy parallel, can I call it that, between business practice and academia. So that's my passion. I'm people focused. What really turns me on is seeing people succeed, is seeing people coming to their full potential. So I will be your biggest supporter with this. I want to see you guys succeed. Of course, I'm not going to do the work for you at all. You're going to work hard, but I'm looking forward. It is for me, it is a privilege, and I must tell you guys, I'm a bit older. I'm not old. I'm in my early 50s, but I like working with younger people. There's something of your enthusiasm that rubs off on me again. So I like it. I like it to work with the business decision makers of the future, if I can call it that. So we're gonna have a good time. Uh, and my expectation of you is high, but so is my respect. As I say, I take my hat off for you to embark on this courageous journey. So let's make it fun, but let's also uh, make the best and draw as much as we can from this. Yes, we will probably uh, take a week or two just to find our feet and to get everything working. If I give you pre-class work to prepare, there's a case study. I'm going to ask you on a lot of the ICE tasks. I'm going to ask you to present something, which means you're going to probably have to put some time aside to put up some sort of a presentation, and you're going to come and present. It's very important for me, guys, and I'm almost done. To also teach you or to expose you to communication. Communication is so important. Some people will say, listen, I'd rather die than to stand and talk to people. Other people will say, no, it's not a problem. It's second nature. I like talking to people. But communication is extremely important in this day. So I'm going to put a bit of emphasis on communication as well and getting you into that. There is a presentation component, like we said in assignment 2 or 3. I think it's 2, the group assignment. But I'll also use ICE to expose you guys to that and give you some good tips on how to put together a presentation, how to handle yourself in a communication settings. Guys, I think the meeting's going to throw us out now. I'm going to greet you. And I'll see you next week. All the best. Have a good
Thanks,
week. Take care.
thanks, Doctor.
You're most welcome. Okay, dokes. Thanks, Cameron. Okay, guys. See you. Cheers.